The hairless apes are laughing in our teeth. Lieutenant Thole spat, her skin a bruised, violent indigo, the color of a dying star or a fresh hematoma. They mock us, Commander. They find our ruin humorous. Kralos watched his own 4 eyes twitch in the chrome reflection of the command console, a rhythmic, frantic tick. His primary hands crushed the armrests, the reinforced carbon steel groaning like a spine under the weight of a god's thumb. Vomit the transmission back onto the screen. Kralos snarled, the words a jagged piece of glass in his throat. The light bled into existence, a projection of digital ghosts. At its center sat the meat suit of the human envoy. She was a study in oceanic indifference, hair shorn to the bone like a monk or a convict, eyes the color of a cold Atlantic swell. Admiral Margaret Serafina, the sovereign of a fortress world. Let us weigh the heavy air between us, she said, her smirk a razor cut in a face of stone. You, the Kian, the lords of a dozen husked galaxies, declare a blood war over a stray pebble on the rim of our gravity well? You seek to burn a world for the sake of a few tons of ore and a bruised ego. Kralos felt his secondary heart hammer against his ribs, a frantic bird in a cage of bone. The gall of it was a physical weight, a spiritual insult. We are the Kian, he had bellowed into the void of the first contact. We have flayed the stars and walked the ashes of 1,000 worlds. Your 1,000-year leash is snapped. The grace period is over. Kneel, or be unmade. And what had this biological glitch done? She had laughed. A wet, staccato sound that mocked the very concept of empire. We've been watching the twitching of your nerves for a millennium, Commander, Serafina said, her voice a calm river over jagged rocks. Every signal, every encrypted grunt, every pathetic technological seizure. That treaty wasn't a wall to keep us out. It was a shroud to keep you safe. The bridge became a tomb. 50 high-ranking Kian, their sleeves smelling of ozone and nervous sweat, stared at the void. A faint, Zith hissed, her voice a dry rasp. She plays at divinity while her pockets are empty. Does she? Kralos turned to Phelan, his intelligence director. Why do they not weep? Why do they not beg for the mercy of a quick death? They are a single spark in a lightless room. Phelan stepped forward, his chitinous exoskeleton clicking like a clock counting down to midnight. Our data is a fossil, Commander. 1,000 years of silence is a long time for a species that lives as if every breath is their last. They were mud dwellers when we found them, sewing flesh with thread and burning chemical fuel like primitive pyromaniacs. And the present? Kralos demanded, the question a whipcrack. The present is a blind spot, Phelan admitted. They have sat in the dark for 10 centuries. We have caught the scent of strange fires, energy spikes that defy our math, but no hard meat. They may have climbed higher than we suspected. Kralos spat, the fluid sizzling on the deck. In 1,000 years? To match our stride? It took us 15 millennia to crawl out of the gravity of our home. You do not outrun the gods in a single human lifetime. With all respect for the blood you've spilled, Commander, Fleet Admiral Trax interjected, her facial tentacles knotted in a tight, anxious braid. Perhaps we should send a scout, a needle to prick the skin of their defenses before we commit the whole body. Cowardice is a rot. Kralos roared. You speak of needles when I hold a hammer. We are Kian. We do not ask permission to exist. We conquer. But if the meatbag speaks the truth, Trax began, her voice a thin wire. Silence. Kralos rose, a 12-foot monument to doomed ambition. Ready the armada. All meat, all chrome. We will shroud their sun in our shadows. We will boil their seas until the salt screams. And we will remind these fleeting ghosts what it means to face the immortal Kian. The bridge erupted into a choreographed chaos of aggression. Kralos turned his four-eyed gaze back to the screen. Serafina was still there, her smirk an open wound. One more thing, she said, her voice a ghost in the machinery. Bring something worth the killing. We've been sharpening our blades in the dark for 1,000 years. We're bored, Kralos. Don't disappoint us. The screen went black, and for the first time in 3 centuries, Kralos felt the cold touch of the grave. He shook his head, trying to rattle the doubt out of his skull. Phelan, give me the weight of their iron. Phelan tapped the screen with a trembling claw. Ancient logs, 50 million meat puppets, 10,000 scrap metal ships. Junk. And our weight. 10 trillion warriors, 500 million currently sleeved for battle. 100,000 warships, each a planet killer. A sea of fire. Kralos felt the warmth of numbers return to his cold blood. The math was a fortress. Even if they had crawled, they could not have flown this far. There is a snag in the weave, Commander, Phelan whispered. A psychological kink. These humans, they don't submit to the shadow of the axe. They grow teeth when cornered. They know they are temporary, and it makes them act as if they are infinite. It is a dangerous delusion. Kralos waved a hand as if swatting a fly. Philosophy won't stop a plasma bolt. Set the course. Maximum burn. We go to the cradle of the laughter. The armada moved, a vast, chrome cancer spreading through the void. But the memory of the laugh remained, a splinter in Kralos's mind. It wasn't the sound of a brute. It was the sound of a predator watching a meal walk into the trap. 3 weeks of transit. 3 weeks of cold metal and hot blood. 3 weeks of simulations that ended in Kian glory, yet failed to account for the chill in the air. The Sol perimeter, Navigator Orion announced. Pluto is a cold eye watching us. Kralos sat in his ceremonial plate, the silver etched with the names of the dead. Have they stirred? Have they screamed? Silence, Sif replied. No signals. No frantic chirping in the dark. The system is as still as a morgue. Arrogance is the first step to the pyre, Kralos muttered. They crossed the threshold. No mines, no fire, no warnings. Just the vast, indifferent dark. Push deeper. Maintain the formation of the spear. They glided past the gas giants, Neptune and Uranus like blue marbles in a dead man's hand. At Saturn, Kralos allowed himself a breath. The humans were a ghost story told to children. They were nothing. Commander, Zitha's voice was a jagged edge. The rings of Saturn, they are behaving unnaturally. Speak plain, woman. The ice, it is breaking the laws of orbit. It is shifting. It is waking up. Kralos watched the tactical feed. The rings, that halo of dust and ice, were fracturing. But they were not drifting. They were aligning. That's no moon, Zith whispered, her voice failing. The ice was a shroud. Beneath the frozen skin lay the chrome. Billions of tiny, needle-sharp vessels emerged from the debris, a swarm of mechanical locusts hidden in the skirts of a planet. Transmission coming through, Sif choked out. Seraphina was back. She wasn't in a bunker. She was on a bridge that looked like it had been carved from the heart of a star. Welcome to the Lion's Den, Kralos. You brought the whole fleet. We appreciate the target practice. What is this sorcery? Kralos roared. Where did you hide this iron? Sorcery? No, just industrial grit, she said. We built them while you were busy preening. 10 billion units. We had 1,000 years of quiet. You'd be surprised what you can do when you stop trying to conquer your neighbors and start trying to transcend them. Lies. No hand can forge such numbers. We stopped using hands centuries ago. You Luddite spasm, Seraphina spat. We automated the soul of the forge. A new ship every second. You do the math, if you still remember how to count. Kralos turned to his gunners. Fire! Burn the swarm. Erase them from the book of life. Seraphina tilted her head. Really? That's the opening act? Fine. Let's dance. The Kian Armada unleashed its fury. 100,000 warships let slip the dogs of war. A blinding light that should have ended the conversation forever. Space turned into a white-hot furnace. But the swarm didn't burn. They didn't even flinch. They moved like liquid, a murmuration of starlings made of knives. They didn't evade. They predicted. They are hollow, Sith gasped. No meat inside. Just the mind of the machine. Autonomous combat mines, Seraphina confirmed. They've been killing you in virtual space for 900 years. They know your moves before your nerves can fire the impulse. The Kian fire missed everything. The swarm remained whole. Our turn, Seraphina said, her eyes turning to chips of ice. A taste of the future. A mere 1,000 of the needle ships broke away. They were pebbles against the Kian mountains. Screens to the limit. Kralos bellowed. The swarm ships didn't fire. They didn't slow. They hit the Kian shields and simply ceased to be solid. They passed through the energy barriers like a ghost through a wall. They entered the hulls of 20 warships, and then, with a silent, molecular shudder, those ships unraveled. They didn't explode. They simply turned into dust. Phase shift tech, Seraphina explained, bored. We learned to slip between the cracks of reality. Your armor is a joke when we can walk through your atoms. Kralos felt the floor fall away. This wasn't war. This was a slaughter of the blind by the sighted. My terms are simple, Seraphina said. Go home. Turn the ships around. Sign a new treaty for 10,000 years, and maybe we won't erase your homeworld from the star charts. And if we choose the fire? Kralos whispered. Seraphina's gaze was a death sentence. Then you will be the last supreme commander of a dead empire. Your choice, meatbag. Kralos, the lord of 12 galaxies, looked at the dust of his fleet. The shame was a poison, but the fear was a cure. Withdraw, he croaked. Turn the prows. We leave this cursed place. They are not chasing, Reyes reported. They are just watching. Seraphina nodded. Smart. Go back to your caves, Kralos. You're safe for now. This is not the end. Kralos snarled, a dying ember of pride. No, it's a strategic repositioning, she mocked. We know the script, Commander. You speak the tongue of the Kian. We speak every grunt and whistle you've uttered since the treaty began. We did the homework while you were busy counting your slaves. You spied on us. You broke the peace. We never left our backyard, she laughed. We just built better telescopes. Quantum-entangled dust. We've been sitting in your councils, invisible as God, for 9 centuries. You're a very loud species, Kralos. Hard to miss. You think you are our masters. Masters? No. We're just further along the track. You've been stagnant, sitting on your laurels while we were burning with the need to be more than just meat. 1,000 years is not enough time to reach this height. Most species are content to rot, Seraphina said. But we've got a short lease and a lot of neuroses. Fear of death is a hell of a fuel. We got motivated. As the Kian fled, Phelan whispered, Commander, they are folding vacuum. They are making something out of nothing. It is the power of the first spark. Kralos looked at the screen one last time. Why the treaty, Admiral? If you were gods then, why let us live? Seraphina's face softened into something like pity, a look more insulting than the laughter. Honestly, we felt sorry for you. You were a dead end. A biological cul-de-sac. We thought 1,000 years of silence might give you room to grow, to evolve. We were wrong. You're still just children with bigger sticks. The humiliation was a physical weight. The Kian Bridge was a gallery of the defeated. We will return, Kralos promised, his voice cracking like dry earth. We will find the secret. I hope you do, Seraphina said, because the universe is a hungry place, and there are things out there that don't laugh before they kill. We're going to need partners, not pets. What threats? We have seen nothing. Because they are better at hiding than we are, she said cryptically. And they've been watching you, too. The human fleet began to move, not a chase, but a ritual. They began to spin, billions of ships forming a vortex that tore at the fabric of space. A gravitational surge. Zith screamed. They are bending light. A little party trick to send you on your way, Seraphina said. The vortex collapsed. In the space where the ships had been, there was no longer a void. There was a planet. A perfect, ringed twin of Saturn, birthed from the vacuum in a heartbeat. They forged a world, Orion whispered. Talk to us when you've grown up, Kralos, Seraphina said, her image fading into static. Until then, try not to choke on your own pride. Kralos sat in the silence of his retreating ship, watching the new planet grow small in the distance. He felt the weight of his own skin, the limitations of his own mind. He was a primitive, playing with fire in the shadow of a star forge. The trip back to Kia Prime was a 3-month funeral. Silence. Shame. Kralos spent the hours in the dark, scouring their history for a flaw in the human chrome. He found only the reflection of his own stagnant soul. He expected the axe when they arrived. Instead, he found the High Council waiting in a cold, silent hall. "Speak," Hakan commanded. Kralos gave them the truth. The laughter, the swarm, the phase-shifting ghosts, the planet born from a thought. And they claim there are greater shadows. Kiros asked. Yes, they speak of things in the deep dark. What is our path, Commander? We learn, Kralos said, the words a heavy burden. We have been fat and happy on the blood of the weak. We have stolen our glory instead of earning it. We are vulnerable because we are finished. We have stopped becoming. You want us to lay down our swords? Draken growled, the old rot of pride still visible. I want us to sharpen our minds, Kralos corrected. Postpone the fire. Invest in the forge. And the humans. If they wanted us dead, we would be ghosts already, Kralos said. They are playing a different game. Hakan nodded. There is sense in this. But the people will call it a surrender of the spirit. Let them, Kralos said. I would rather be a coward who lives to see the dawn than a hero who leads his race into the furnace of extinction. A vote, then. But first, a guest. The doors opened. A human walked in. No armor. Just a suit of fabric and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Dr. Elias Vance. Your perimeter was charming, Vance said, his voice a smooth silk. Creative use of autonomous minds in the Cygnus belt. I liked it. Kralos felt his skin crawl. Why are you here, human? To offer a hand, Vance said, and a library. He held up a crystal. A tiny, glowing sliver of light. The history of our struggle. Every thought, every failure, every leap from the wheel to the phase shift. Everything but the triggers for the guns. You'll have to find your own teeth. Kralos stared at the light. Why give us the keys to your kingdom? Because a race without a rival becomes a race of inbred fools, Vance said, his voice turning hard. We've had no one to push us for a millennium. We're getting soft, Kralos. We want colleagues. We want partners who can see the shadows coming. We need more than just human eyes to watch the dark. You think we would stand with you? I think you'll stand for yourselves, Vance said. And that's enough. Given time and this, he tapped the crystal. You might actually become something worth talking to. Kralos took the device. It felt heavier than a planet. It was the end of the Kian Empire, and the birth of something he couldn't yet name. We accept, Kralos said. Good. Then let's talk about a new treaty. Not a wall this time. A bridge. And the guns. Vance smiled, and this time, it was the smirk of Seraphina. The guns depend on how much you love your neighbors, Kralos. Don't make us remind you why we laugh. The council debated, but Kralos was already gone, lost in the eyes of the human. He saw the fire there, the short-lived, frantic, desperate fire of a species that knew it was dying and decided to become God before the lights went out. He felt curiosity stir, a strange, itchy sensation in his brain. He wanted to know how they did it. He wanted to know why they laughed. And as Vance began to speak of the stars, Kralos realized he wasn't looking for a war anymore. He was looking for the future. Perhaps that was the secret. To face the abyss not with a scream, but with a grin. Kralos leaned forward, his 4 eyes fixed on the man who had brought the light. The real war was just beginning, but for the first time, the Kian were on the right side of the flame.